Chosen one. You did not stumble onto this message. You were summoned. Something in your spirit, something ancient and quietly burning, has been guiding you here. This moment is not random. It is a divine appointment written into your story long before you took your first breath. As the scripture declares in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Anointed one, you are standing at the edge of a revelation, a truth about your hidden identity that has been waiting to be unlocked. The strange sensitivities you carried as a child, the heavy atmospheres you could feel without explanation, the patterns that followed you, the wounds that seemed too deep for your age. None of it was accidental. These were spiritual markers, divine fingerprints, signs placed inside you to remind you of who you really are. And now, heaven is whispering, remember. Chosen one. What you are about to hear will shift how you see your past, your family, and your calling. This is an awakening, a spiritual unveiling meant to transform your mind, your spirit, and even the circumstances around you. Take a breath. Open your heart. Your revelation begins now. Chosen one. Let us walk deeper now, not into chaos, but into revelation. Heaven is pulling back a veil that has covered your life for years, and what felt like confusion is about to become clarity. You are not here by accident. You are not watching this because of curiosity or coincidence. You are here because the anointed ones are being awakened one by one, and the signs that have followed you since childhood are finally ready to speak. So, chosen one, breathe for a moment. Let your spirit settle. Something sacred is unfolding. Let me talk to you, heart to heart, spirit to spirit. I know what it feels like to grow up in a family where love feels conditional, where peace feels borrowed, where you walk on eggshells and pretend everything is fine, while something inside you keeps whispering, "There is more to me than this." I remember being young and sensing things others couldn't feel, tension in the air, before an argument, the heaviness in someone's tone, even when their words sounded normal, the ache behind laughter that wasn't real. At the time I thought it was just sensitivity. Later I understood it was spiritual sight awakening early. And chosen one, you felt it too. This is one of the first markers of being set apart. Your family felt like fire, not just warm or comforting, but scorching, unpredictable, consuming. Their words could lift you up one moment and tear you down the next. Their silence could feel louder than any shout. Their expectations were invisible chains around your heart. Yet heaven whispers to you now, that fire did not burn you. It forged you. Toxic families are not punishments. They are furnaces, not to destroy the chosen one, but to expose the impurities placed on them by generations before. The heat reveals what is real and burns away what you were never meant to carry. You were born into a lineage that had wounds older than anyone in your family could explain. Patterns no one talked about, but everyone lived under. Secrets that shaped behavior, brokenness passed down like inheritance. But you, anointed one, you were the interruption. You were the one heaven sent to end what everyone else accepted. And whether or not you knew it, your presence alone began to disturb the old cycles. Sensitive children, spiritually attuned children, often unintentionally expose what the family tried to hide. You may have felt like the odd one out, the quiet observer, the emotional absorber, the one who saw too much or felt too deeply. But truly, you were the spiritual catalyst, heaven's seed planted in wounded soil. I chosen. One, hear this, your soul did not choose comfort, it chose purpose. When you were placed in the center of family dysfunction, it wasn't to drown in it, it was to awaken within it. You were not meant to mirror their chaos. You were meant to rise above it. But rising doesn't happen without first recognizing the depth of where you've been. I know these wounds run deep. I know you've asked yourself, why me? Why this family? Why this pain? The answer is not punishment, it is identity. Those who carry rare callings often grow up in rare battles. The most painful environments reveal the most powerful identities. The rejection you experienced didn't diminish your worth, it amplified your spiritual assignment. Every time your voice was dismissed, heaven was sharpening it. Every time your heart was wounded, heaven was stretching its capacity. Every time you felt unseen, heaven was marking you. Chosen ones rarely grow up understood. They grow up noticed by heaven, resisted by darkness, and misunderstood by their own. This is the hidden pattern many of us share, though we only understand it much later. When I look back on my own journey, I remember trying for years to fix my family, not because I was trying to control them, but because something in me believed that if I could heal them, I could finally feel peace. I learned the same lesson you may be learning now. Healing them was never my assignment. Healing myself was. Saving them was never my role. Breaking the pattern within me was. And when I stopped fighting for their transformation and started fighting for my own, everything shifted. Not because they changed, but because I did. Chosen one, this is a truth. Few people speak aloud. Toxic families do not only wound you, they reveal you. They mirror the pieces of yourself that need healing. They expose your hidden strengths. They activate your spiritual gifts early. They push you into awareness long before your peers ever think about identity or calling. And yes, they awaken you through pain, but that pain becomes a doorway to purpose, a doorway to destiny, a doorway to the version of you heaven always knew you could become. If you feel a stirring inside you right now, if something deep within resonates, even though the words are heavy, that's because your spirit recognizes truth before your mind can fully interpret it. You are not being taught. Right now you're being reminded. Heaven placed markers inside you long ago, unusual sensitivity, heightened intuition, the need to protect others, the awareness of atmosphere, the desire for peace, even in chaos. These were never weaknesses. They were signs. Signs of the mantle you carry. Signs of the lineage you were sent to transform. Signs of the identity you are finally waking up to. And now, chosen one, the question is rising inside your spirit. If I was placed in the fire for a purpose, then what exactly is heaven calling me to become chosen one? As we continue deeper into this unveiling, understand something sacred. Heaven never exposes a wound unless it is preparing to reveal a destiny. The very places where you felt the most broken are often the same places where your greatest anointing was being formed. And if you look closely at your life, you'll notice a pattern. Every moment of pain was paired with a moment of awakening. Not always immediately, not always visibly, but consistently. Like a thread, quietly weaving identity through adversity. Growing up, you may have felt like the emotional anchor of your family, the one who sensed tension before words were spoken, the one who held peace for everyone else, even while you were aching inside. This wasn't weakness. This was spiritual responsibility placed on you long before you understood it. You were carrying an atmosphere, not just emotions. Anointed one. Some of us learned to regulate the room because the room had no regulation without us. Some of us learned maturity early because the adults around us did not embody it. Some of us became caretakers of hearts we didn't break and protectors of spirits we didn't wound. And all of this was shaping you into someone heaven could trust. Chosen one. I know it didn't feel fair, but fairness was never the assignment formation was. The loneliness you felt wasn't abandonment, it was consecration. The misunderstandings you endured weren't rejections, they were redirections, and the heaviness you carried wasn't a curse, it was a mantle. Heaven was stretching your spiritual senses, teaching you discernment long before you even knew that word existed. You learned to read people without being taught. You learned to detect danger without seeing it. You learned to protect yourself emotionally because no one else knew how. These are not random traits. These are signs of one who has been marked. When heaven sets someone apart, the separation rarely feels holy, it feels painful. It feels like exclusion, like silence, like being the outsider in your own home. But what if that distance was never meant to isolate you, but to insulate you? What if heaven was keeping your spirit untouched while your surroundings were chaotic? Many chosen ones grow up around dysfunction, yet their spirit remains different, softer, wiser, more aware. That difference is not accidental. It is inheritance. It is identity. It is evidence that you were sent, not simply born. There is something else you must understand. Toxic families activate the warrior in you, but they also awaken the healer. At some point in your journey, you began noticing patterns others ignored. You started recognizing emotional cycles. You became aware of the wounds people carried in their words and behavior. And slowly, without realizing it, you began breaking those cycles within yourself. That is spiritual authority. That is divine rebellion. That is how generational change begins. For me, the moment I realized this truth was quiet, unexpected. I was sitting alone after another argument, one of those conflicts where everything feels blurry and exaggerated and ancient. I remember thinking, if I don't change something inside myself, I will become exactly what wounded me. That realization was painful, but it was also freeing. Because in that moment, I understood that I had the power to choose differently. And chosen one, you do too. You are not doomed to repeat what you came from. You carry the ability to rewrite what was handed to you. You don't just break cycles, you birth new ones. Awakening doesn't begin with a miracle. It begins with awareness. Awareness that your triggers are teachers. Awareness that your sensitivity is spiritual intelligence. Awareness that your forgiveness is liberation, not approval. Awareness that healing yourself is the greatest act of love you can offer your lineage. Heaven is not asking you to fix those who hurt you. It is calling you to rise beyond what shaped you. Because the moment you rise, the cycle breaks. Chosen one. Every time you choose peace instead of reacting, you are shifting the generational story. Every time you speak truth instead of staying silent, you are rewriting the script. Every time you set a boundary, you are teaching your bloodline a new language, and every time you heal, heaven celebrates. The unseen realm responds to your transformation. Angels are assigned to you not because you are fragile, but because you are chosen for a task few would have the strength to carry. Look back for a moment, not in sadness, but in recognition. Notice how many things tried to break you, yet failed. Notice how often you felt alone, yet somehow found strength. Notice how life pushed you down, only for you to rise with more clarity each time. These are not coincidences. These are confirmations. You are not defined by the environment you came from. You are defined by the light that survived it. And now, anointed one, a deeper question rises before you. If heaven placed this much power inside you before you even knew who you were, what will happen when you finally step fully into your identity, chosen one? As we continue unfolding this revelation, understand that every spiritual gift within you was awakened early because of the environment you were placed in. The chaos around you wasn't just noise, it was training. The instability wasn't simply dysfunction, it was divine conditioning. The emotional storms weren't random, they were spiritual preparation. Anointed One. Heaven does not place rare souls in comfortable places. Heaven places them where their gifts are forced to activate, where intuition becomes survival, where discernment becomes instinct, where spiritual sensitivity becomes necessary. You didn't just grow up in a toxic family, you grew through one. If you look back with eyes of the spirit, not the wounds of the past, you will notice something extraordinary. You have always been the different one. While others repeated patterns, you questioned them. While others normalized silence, you felt the truth behind it. While others avoided healing, you were drawn to it, even when it hurt. And that difference isolated you, yes, but it also identified you. The mark of the chosen one is unmistakable. You were never able to fully blend into the dysfunction around you, even when you tried, even when you forced yourself to adapt. Something inside you resisted it, like your soul itself refused to conform. There were moments, I'm sure, when you blamed yourself for that difference. You may have wondered why you couldn't handle what everyone else seemed to tolerate. Why small things broke you open. Why words pierced you deeper than they should have. Why the atmosphere of a room affected you intensely. But chosen one, what if your sensitivity was never a weakness? What if it was the spiritual radar placed in you long before birth? Some hearts feel deeply because they are assigned to heal deeply. Some spirits sense darkness because they are destined to overcome it. And some souls cannot endure certain environments because heaven refuses to let them become hardened. Think of the ways you were shaped without realizing it. Your compassion grew where cruelty tried to suffocate you. Your wisdom grew where childishness surrounded you. Your self-awareness grew in a home where no one acknowledged their own emotions. Your emotional strength grew because you had no choice but to carry what others dropped. These are not accidental traits. They are sacred qualities forged under pressure. And yes, there is pain attached to these experiences. Weaves of memory you don't revisit, often moments you tried to forget, but never truly could. But those moments didn't just leave scars, they left spiritual openings. A doorway for empathy, a door for healing, a doorway for purpose. Some of the greatest healers, leaders, and spiritually awakened individuals were shaped by environments that seemed too heavy for them. Yet somehow they survived. Not because they were strong on their own, but because heaven reinforced the places where their heart was growing. Chosen one. Let me share something personal. I used to wonder why I could forgive so easily, even when forgiveness didn't feel fair. Why I cried in silence for people who never apologized. Why I tried to understand those who didn't try to understand me. At first I thought it meant I was weak. Now I see it was evidence of my calling. Those with hardened hearts cannot carry spiritual mantles. Those without compassion cannot lead others out of pain. Those who cannot feel cannot heal. And everything you've felt, everything you've endured, everything you've held inside heaven has seen it, and heaven has counted it as purpose. There is something else heaven needs you to understand. When you were born, darkness recognized you before your family did. Spirits of generational bondage, cycles of addiction, trauma, and silence, they saw who you were. They sensed your assignment. They felt your light. And they reacted. Not because you were weak, but because your presence threatened everything they had built over generations. That's why your childhood felt like a battlefield. That's why relationships were difficult. That's why you were attacked emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Chosen ones are often confronted early because the enemy knows they are dangerous once awakened. And now, here you are, awakening, beginning to remember who you are, beginning to piece together the signs that were always there, the dreams that felt prophetic, the inner knowing you couldn't explain, the strange coincidences you experienced, the moments where you should have fallen apart but didn't, the times you felt protected by something unseen, the way you always sensed when something was wrong, even without evidence, the way your heart never fully hardened, no matter how much it broke. These are spiritual fingerprints of your identity. Chosen one. The fire you grew up in did not destroy you for a reason. It recognized something inside you that even you didn't know was there. A strength that was quietly rising, a purpose that was quietly forming, a spiritual identity that was quietly maturing. And now heaven asks you, what if every painful memory wasn't a chain, but a key? A key to understanding your assignment. A key to unlocking your purpose. A key to breaking every cycle your lineage could not. And if that is true, then the real question becomes, are you ready to step into the identity that the fire was preparing you for chosen one? As we continue this journey, heaven is asking you to look at your life with new eyes, not the eyes of the wounded child who survived the storm, but the eyes of the awakened spirit who is finally beginning to understand why the storm existed in the first place. You see, Anointed One, nothing in your story was accidental, not the family you were born into, not the battles you fought, not the heaviness you carried in silence, not even the moments where you felt invisible in your own home. These moments were not random suffering, they were spiritual shaping. There is a reason you matured faster than everyone around you, a reason your heart held wisdom long before your age could explain it. A reason you often felt older than the people raising you. Chosen one. When heaven assigns a soul to break generational bondage, that soul will always feel out of place. You weren't meant to blend into the dysfunction, you were meant to expose it. You weren't meant to repeat the pattern, you were meant to interrupt it. And interruption is never gentle. Heaven disrupts what darkness depends on. Think back for a moment, not with pain, but with awareness. Remember how you always questioned things your family accepted without thinking. Remember how you sensed the emotional undercurrents no one talked about. Remember how lies felt louder to you than the truth others claimed. Remember how you could feel the atmosphere shift long before anyone else noticed. These were not personality quirks. These were spiritual indicators of someone heaven was preparing to lead, not follow. And yes, that leadership began in the shadows. It began in the moments where you were left alone, with your thoughts, learning to comfort yourself because no one else knew how. It began in the nights where your tears cleansed you more than any apology ever did. It began when you learned to self-soothe, not out of luxury, but out of necessity. These experiences did not break you, they trained you. The emotional intelligence you carry now was born from those silent battles. Chosen one. One of the hardest truths to accept is this: the people who hurt you were often operating out of wounds deeper than your own. They loved you the way they loved themselves, and many of them did not love themselves at all. Their capacity was limited, their hearts were cracked, their spirits were unhealed, and heaven saw all of it. Heaven knew that if you grew up in comfort, your compassion wouldn't blossom. If you grew up in stability, your discernment wouldn't sharpen. If you grew up in ease, your calling wouldn't activate. You were shaped in adversity so that your spirit would not be fragile. And though your heart felt fragile in those moments, your spirit was being fortified layer by layer. The same way gold is purified through fire, your identity was clarified through struggle. You learned endurance, you learned awareness, you learned resilience, you learned boundaries, and most importantly, you learned to see truth both in others and within yourself. I want to share something personal with you, Chosen One. There was a time when I couldn't understand why certain people in my family reacted to my light with irritation, why my joy seemed to bother them, why my peace seemed to provoke them, why attempts at healing were met with hostility. At first, I took it personally. Later, I realized something profound. Some spirits are reminded of their own buried pain when they encounter someone who carries healing. Your presence awakens what others try to suppress, and this is why your journey has always felt heavier than those around you. You weren't just carrying your own battles, you were walking through a spiritual minefield built before you were born. Generational wounds, generational silence, generational trauma, generational fear. But remember this, heaven would not send a fragile soul to confront ancient patterns. Heaven sent someone strong enough to break what others could not. Someone awake enough to see what others refused to see. Someone brave enough to choose differently. Chosen One, the moment you decided, this cycle ends with me, the spiritual realm shifted. The moment you said, I will not parent like that, love like that, speak like that, or carry that, the chain broke. Even if your family never understood you, heaven did. Even if your family never apologized, heaven acknowledged every wound. Even if your family never recognized who you were, heaven always knew. You were not sent to blend into their story, you were sent to rewrite it. And now something deeper is being asked of you. Are you willing to embrace the identity your pain prepared you for? Are you willing to step into the authority you were shaped to carry? Are you willing to let the old version of yourself fall away, so the true you, the healed you, the awakened, you can finally stand, Chosen One? Everything inside you is rising, and the question that echoes through your spirit now is this. If the fire shaped you this powerfully, what will happen when you begin to walk in your fullness? Chosen One. As we move further into this divine unveiling, heaven is drawing your attention to something most people never recognize about their own story. Transformation does not begin when your circumstances change. It begins the moment you change. The moment your spirit whispers, I cannot live like this anymore, a spiritual shift begins. The moment you question the patterns you inherited, you step outside of them. And the moment you choose healing instead of repeating what wounded you, heaven marks that moment as the true beginning of your awakening. Anointed One, the greatest turning point in the life of every chosen one is not when the family becomes healthier, kinder, or more supportive. It is when you realize you were never meant to wait for their transformation, you were meant to lead your own. And this realization hits differently when you've spent years hoping someone would change, apologize, soften, or simply see you. But Chosen One, the truth is not cruel, it is liberating. You do not need their permission to heal. You do not need their understanding to evolve. You do not need their agreement to rise. Many chosen ones spend years believing that peace will come when the family dynamic shifts. But heaven reveals a deeper truth. Peace comes when the chosen one stops fighting battles that don't belong to them. You were not sent to fix people, you were sent to grow. You were not sent to carry the family's emotional weight, you were sent to release your own. You were not sent into dysfunction to absorb it, you were sent to transcend it. And transcendence, Chosen One, begins within. There comes a moment when the weight of all the unsaid things, all the emotional exhaustion, all the expectations you could never fulfill becomes too heavy for your spirit. Not because you are weak, but because heaven never meant for you to carry what was never yours. That heaviness is a signal, a divine push urging you toward your next level, and that next level always begins with detachment. Detachment does not mean becoming cold, distant, or uncaring. It means releasing the illusion that you are responsible for the spiritual journey of others. It means recognizing that love is not the same as self-sacrifice. It means understanding that empathy becomes harmful the moment it replaces boundaries, and boundaries chosen. One are not walls, they are doors. Doors that protect your energy, your purpose, your identity, and your future. There was a time in my own journey when I believed I had to earn peace. That if I could become perfect, helpful, wise, calm, or quiet enough, my family would finally soften. But perfection does not heal dysfunction. Silence does not erase wounds. Self-sacrifice does not create harmony. And shrinking yourself never creates safety. It only creates a smaller version of you. The day I stopped trying to be who my family needed me to be, and started becoming who heaven created me to be, something powerful shifted, not outside, inside. And that's the shift you are standing in right now. Chosen one. Heaven is revealing this to you every time you break a pattern inside yourself. The spiritual atmosphere shifts around you. When you refuse to repeat the anger you were raised in, you shift your lineage. When you choose truth over silence, you shift the narrative. When you choose compassion instead of bitterness, you shift the vibration. When you set boundaries, you shift the spiritual permission for how others treat you. Your healing is not passive, it is generational warfare disguised as self-love. But here is where the journey becomes both beautiful and challenging. Once you begin healing, your family may not understand the new version of you. They may resist the changes you make. They may accuse you of being distant, dramatic, selfish, or different. And in a way they are right, you are different. They are witnessing the old version of you fall away, the version who tolerated chaos, absorbed hurt, remained silent, or carried burdens that belonged to someone else. They are watching your spirit reclaim itself. When the chosen one begins to rise, it often disrupts the entire system that once depended on their silence. And that disruption is uncomfortable for them, but also for you. Because rising means leaving behind the role you were cast into. It means refusing to shrink. It means learning to say no even when your voice shakes. It means choosing alignment over approval. It means honoring your spirit more than their expectations. And now, chosen one. The divine question before you is this: if heaven is calling you into a new identity, are you willing to release the version of yourself that was built in survival? For once you answer that question with honesty, something irreversible happens. Your spirit steps forward. Your past loosens its grip, and your future begins to unfold with clarity you have never known before. Chosen one. As we walk deeper into this unfolding revelation, heaven is guiding you into one of the most powerful realizations of your journey. Healing is not just about releasing the past, it is about reclaiming the self that was buried beneath survival. Every version of you that learned to stay quiet, stay small, stay agreeable, stay invisible, or stay strong for everyone else, those versions were not your true identity. They were protective layers your spirit created to endure what your environment demanded of you. But now, Anointed One, Heaven, is peeling those layers away, calling forth the real you, the you who was hidden, not lost. And as the real you begins to emerge, you will notice something remarkable. The fears that once felt overwhelming begin to loosen. The emotional triggers that once controlled you begin to soften. The patterns that once felt impossible to escape begin to crumble. This is not coincidence. This is spiritual reformation. When heaven calls a chosen one into alignment, everything that was built on pain begins to fall away. And though this falling away process can feel unsettling, it is sacred. It is heaven making room for your true identity to rise. But let's be honest, chosen one, healing is not clean, simple, or linear. It is messy. It is uncomfortable. It brings truth to the surface that you once buried for protection. It reveals parts of you that you avoided because they were too painful to acknowledge. Healing requires courage, not perfection. And if you have ever wondered why your healing journey feels heavier than others, it is because you are not healing only for yourself. You are healing for your lineage. You are healing for the generations that came before you who never had the tools, the language, or the freedom to do what you are doing now. You are healing for the children who will come after you, who will inherit the light you are cultivating instead of the darkness you came from. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey where the emotional weight suddenly reveals its purpose. For some, it comes through a painful realization. For others, it comes in a quiet moment of clarity. For me, it came in a season where everything in my life felt like it was breaking apart. I felt overwhelmed, lost, exhausted, like I was unraveling. But what I didn't understand at the time was that heaven wasn't allowing my life to fall apart. Heaven was allowing the false layers to fall off. Everything that didn't belong to my true identity had to be removed, and the removal felt like destruction. But in reality, it was deliverance. Chosen one. You may be experiencing something similar. You may feel like parts of your old life no longer fit. Conversations feel different. The roles you once played drain you. The expectations others placed on you feel suffocating. You may feel disconnected from environments you once tolerated. This isn't you changing for no reason. This is your spirit refusing to return to a version of yourself that healing has outgrown. You are shedding the identity formed in survival and stepping into the identity formed in truth. However, as you rise into this new identity, something else happens. Darkness that once felt distant may seem to react more intensely. Emotional patterns may try to return. Old triggers may flare up unexpectedly. And relationships that were once stable may feel shaky. Do not be alarmed. This is a spiritual law. Whenever a chosen one rises, resistance increases. Not to stop you, but to test your commitment to the new version of yourself. The battles you face now are not signs of failure. They are confirmations of your elevation. The enemy never fights the old version of you. The enemy fights the becoming version of you. And in these moments of resistance, you may find yourself asking, why does it feel like everything is shaking? The answer is simple. Chosen. One, heaven is removing the final attachments that tether you to cycles you are no longer meant to repeat. Nothing that is meant for your future will crumble in your hands. Only what was built on wounds will fall away. Only what was connected to your old identity will dissolve. Only what cannot go with you into your calling will detach. And though this detachment can feel like loss, it is actually liberation, the liberation your spirit has been waiting for. So now, anointed one, look within. Feel the shift happening in your spirit. Sense the stirring in your identity. Recognize the truth rising within you. Because the deeper question now is this: if everything falling away is clearing the path ahead, then what exactly is heaven preparing you to step into chosen one? As we continue this journey, heaven is guiding you into a deeper dimension of understanding a place where you finally begin to see not just what shaped you, but why it shaped you. Everything in your life, from the smallest moment of confusion to the greatest wound you carried, has been part of a spiritual architecture designed to awaken your identity. You were not simply surviving experiences, you were being sculpted by them. And now, Anointed One, you are reaching the part of your journey where heaven begins to reveal the blueprint behind the breaking. For so long, you may have believed that certain traits within you were accidental. Your intuition, your empathy, your ability to feel a room shift, your instinct to protect others, your way of understanding emotions beneath words. But, Chosen One, these were not random personality traits. These were spiritual tools. They were embedded into your spirit before you entered this world, because your assignment required them. Heaven does not send warriors without armor. Heaven does not send healers without sensitivity. Heaven does not send cycle breakers without discernment. Your childhood did not create your gifts. It awakened them. And the awakening often comes through contrast. If you grew up around dishonesty, it activated your gift of truth. If you grew up around emotional chaos, it sharpened your discernment. If you grew up feeling unseen, it awakened your ability to see others deeply. If you grew up unheard, it developed your gift of listening. If you grew up around instability, it taught your spirit to become the anchor your environment lacked. Every wound carried a lesson. Every scar held a message. Every moment of pain held a hidden preparation. Chosen One, let us go deeper. Heaven is reminding you that generational patterns did not break accidentally. They broke because you walked into the lineage. You carry a frequency your family was not prepared for, yet desperately needed. A higher sensitivity, a deeper awareness, a stronger spiritual backbone. This is why your presence disrupted things. This is why your truth made people uncomfortable. This is why your boundaries sparked conflict. Darkness is always disturbed when a chosen one enters the room, not because you were loud, but because your spirit was. And the spirits assigned to keep your family bound recognized something in you long before you recognized anything in yourself. And this is where the journey becomes even more profound. Often the chosen one is not the strongest person in the family. Spiritually, they are the most vulnerable, not weak, but open, soft-hearted, deep-feeling, spiritually exposed. And this openness, while it made you sensitive to pain, also made you receptive to God. You felt conviction earlier. You felt spiritual presence earlier. You sensed emotional shifts without explanation. You carried a conscience others seemed to ignore. You were spiritually responsive even when you didn't have language for it. This vulnerability is not a flaw, it is the evidence of divine selection. The soft-hearted are the ones heaven uses. The sensitive ones are the ones who feel God first. The ones who break easily are the ones who carry compassion. The ones who cry deeply are the ones who heal deeply. The ones who felt everything are the ones who were chosen to change everything. But now, chosen one, something inside you is evolving. Your vulnerability is maturing into strength. Your sensitivity is maturing into discernment. Your pain is maturing into wisdom. Your compassion is maturing into spiritual authority. And your wounds, the same wounds that once made you feel powerless, are maturing into purpose. You are stepping out of survival mode and stepping into identity mode. Yet, as this transformation unfolds, you may face an internal conflict. A part of you wants to rise, but another part fears leaving behind the version of you that your family knew. A part of you wants to grow, but another part feels guilty for outgrowing people you once tried to save. A part of you wants to walk forward, but another part feels tethered to loyalty, obligation, or old emotional ties. Listen closely, Anointed One. This conflict is not a sign you are going in the wrong direction. It is a sign you are finally moving. Here is a truth many chosen ones struggle to accept. You can love people and still not follow their patterns. You can forgive them and still not live like them. You can honor them and still outgrow them. You can care for them and still create distance when necessary. Growth does not betray your family. It liberates your spirit. And liberation, chosen one, is part of your assignment. There will come a moment, perhaps it is already unfolding, where you begin to see the world, your relationships, and yourself differently. You start recognizing what drains you, what elevates you, what aligns with you, and what no longer fits your identity. This awareness is not arrogance, it is spiritual clarity. Heaven is clearing your vision so you can walk with intention instead of obligation. But here is the part that may surprise you. Even as you grow, even as you change, even as you separate from old patterns, you will begin to feel compassion instead of resentment. You will begin to understand that the people who wounded you were often operating from wounds of their own. And while this understanding does not excuse their behavior, it explains the spiritual war they were fighting, a war you were sent to rise above. Chosen One. Your journey is no longer about escaping your past. It is about transforming your relationship with it. And once you do, the question before your spirit becomes this: if your past was preparation, what extraordinary future is it preparing you to walk into, Chosen One? As we enter this final part of your awakening journey, heaven is inviting you to stand at the threshold of revelation and look back at everything you have walked through, not with pain, not with regret, but with spiritual eyes finally open. For the first time, you can begin to see the thread that was woven through every chapter of your life. You can start to recognize that nothing that happened to you was wasted. Nothing was meaningless. Nothing was random. Every wound shaped your wisdom. Every disappointment shaped your discernment. Every heartbreak shaped your compassion. Every moment of survival shaped your authority. And every season of silence shaped your ability to hear God in ways most people never will. Anointed One. Heaven needs you to understand that the toxic family you were born into was not an assignment of destruction. It was an assignment of revelation. You were placed there so your true identity would reveal itself through contrast. Had you been born into comfort, your gifts might have never awakened. Had you been born into emotional safety, your spiritual sensitivity might have stayed dormant. Had you been surrounded by stability, your instinct for spiritual warfare might have never formed. The environment you came from activated the warrior within you long before you knew a battle even existed. But now, as the warrior rises, heaven is shifting your assignment. You are no longer the child surviving the battlefield. You are the chosen one stepping into command. Your spirit has outgrown the cycle. Your heart has outgrown the wounds. Your mind has outgrown the lies. And your identity has outgrown every limitation that was placed on you by people who never saw your true calling. You're no longer defined by the environment that shaped you. You're defined by the purpose that is calling you. And this purpose requires a new version of you, a version that is no longer attached to survival. A version that no longer needs validation from those who could not see your worth. A version that no longer fears becoming more than what your family could ever imagine. A version that understands that stepping into your destiny does not dishonor your past, it completes it. Chosen One, look closely at your life right now. Notice how your desires are changing. Notice how your spirit feels unsettled in places you once tolerated. Notice how old habits feel heavier. Notice how old relationships feel misaligned. Notice how your intuition is becoming louder. These are not coincidences. These are internal signals that your spirit is shifting dimensions. The version of you that lived in survival cannot enter the future. Heaven is preparing for you. Transformation requires release. Elevation requires detachment. Identity requires clarity. And here is where so many chosen ones struggle letting go. Feels like losing something familiar, even when that familiar thing has been hurting you for years. But anointed. One, heaven is not asking you to abandon people. Heaven is asking you to abandon patterns. Patterns of shrinking yourself, patterns of over-explaining, patterns of carrying emotional burdens you did not create, patterns of guilt that were never yours to bear, patterns of silence in the face of disrespect, patterns of loyalty to people who were never loyal to your spirit. You are being called to rise above what once shaped you, not because you are better than them, but because you are called beyond them. When a chosen one rises, something extraordinary happens. The spiritual atmosphere begins to respond. Opportunities begin to appear that once felt unreachable. Connections begin to form in ways you could never have orchestrated on your own. Old doors shut not to punish you, but to protect you. New doors open, not because you earned them, but because you were destined for them. And even the things you once cried over begin to make sense when seen from the mountaintop of identity. Let me speak to your spirit directly now. The heaviness you have felt recently is not depression, it is spiritual shedding. The confusion you've sensed is not failure, it is divine restructuring. The distance you feel from certain people is not rejection, it is realignment. The exhaustion you carry is not weakness, it is the final stage of release before elevation. Heaven often allows discomfort when you are too attached to a season you have outgrown. And you, chosen one, have outgrown more than you realize. Your identity is awakening, your spirit is expanding, your purpose is calling. You can feel it, that quiet pressure in your chest, that sense of anticipation, that awareness that something sacred is shifting in your life. It is not imagination, it is not wishful thinking, it is prophecy being fulfilled within you. You are standing in the same spiritual truth spoken in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9. You are chosen, set apart, called out of darkness and into his marvelous light. This calling is not poetic, it is literal. You have been called out, called up, called forward. But the greatest revelation is this: rising into your identity will not only heal you, it will heal your lineage. Every boundary you set heals generations before you who had none. Every time you speak truth, you heal the silence your ancestors lived under. Every time you love yourself, you break the self-hatred passed down through your bloodline. Every time you refuse dysfunction, you alter the trajectory of generations that will come after you. Your healing is not small, it is historic. It is spiritual architecture stretching far beyond your lifetime. And now, chosen one, you stand at the edge of everything heaven has prepared for you. The fire that once surrounded you has become the light that now guides you. The wounds that once weakened you have become the wisdom that now strengthens you. The chaos that once drowned you has become the clarity that now leads you. The identity that was once hidden is now rising to the surface with undeniable force. So the question heaven places before you, the final question of this journey, is this: now that you finally know who you are you ready to become who you were born to be? Chosen one. As we reach the end of this sacred journey together, take a moment to recognize what has awakened inside you. Feel the shift in your chest, the clarity in your mind, the steady rise of something ancient and undeniable in your spirit. This is not inspiration, this is activation. Heaven has been whispering to you throughout this message, reminding you of who you are beneath the wounds, beneath the noise, beneath the story others tried to write for you. You are not leaving this video as the same version of yourself. Something has been unlocked, something has been reclaimed, something has been returned to its rightful owner, you. Anointed One, the path ahead of you is not the path you came from. You have stepped out of the cycle, out of the trauma, out of the expectations that once confined you. You are walking into a future shaped not by survival, but by identity. The fire that once tried to break you has forged a strength that even darkness recognizes. The patterns that once defined your lineage end with you. The awakening that once felt distant has become the reality of your spirit. You are not just healing, you are rising. You are not just breaking free, you are breaking through. And though this journey has been painful, Heaven wants you to know this truth. You did not walk it alone. Every revelation you received today was guided. Every memory that resurfaced was intentional. Every emotion that stirred was purposeful. You were led here because your spirit was ready, ready to remember, ready to release, ready to transform. You were chosen long before you understood what that meant, and now you are beginning to live in the fullness of that calling. Chosen One, as you move forward, do not shrink back into the version of yourself that the past created. Walk boldly into the identity Heaven revealed. Honor your healing, guard your peace, trust your discernment. And remember that the light within you is not small, it is lineage-altering, atmosphere-shifting, destiny-defining light. If this message awakened something deep within you, let your spirit say so. Write it in the comments. Share your testimony. And if you feel led, subscribe and stay connected to this sanctuary of truth, identity, and spiritual awakening. Your journey is far from over. In fact, it is just beginning. Chosen One, rise. Your time has come.